Hey, everybody. Nathaniel Jordan here to talk about the legendary singer, songwriter, and actor David Bowie. Now, over 4 years ago, I uploaded a YouTube video counting down Bowie's top 20 most commercially successful songs. However, what I've come to realize between now and then is that oftentimes with true musical innovators like Bowie, some of their most powerful and influential songs can fly completely under the commercial radar. Now, most of us have heard songs like Fame, Space Oddity, and Let's Dance, but far fewer have heard songs like Andy Warhol, Always Crashing in the Same Car, or Teenage Wildlife. After all, the man did release 27 studio albums in his lifetime, so it was inevitable that some of his gems went unrecognized. Now, since David Bowie had such a long and diverse career, I will only be covering his first 14 albums in this video, ranging from his 1967 self-titled debut to his 1980 album Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. But before we begin, let me first define which songs constitute as underrated. Now, according to the website TsorT.info, these are David Bowie's 50 most commercially successful songs, so none of these will be appearing in the video. This website calculated his most popular songs by aggregating 230 different data sources from over 20 countries, so their data is extremely comprehensive. I will place a link to TsorT.info in the description box down below. And of course, the songs I picked are just my own personal opinion, and just because a song didn't make the list doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, or I wasn't appreciative of what the artist was conveying. Also, I will be listing the songs in chronological order. Alright, let's begin. So kicking off the list is She's Got Medals, from Bowie's self-titled debut album. Now, he was only 20 when he released this kinda whimsical and childlike album, and it was both a commercial and critical failure. It's really quite a bizarre music hall record and was heavily inspired by the English singer and actor Anthony Newley. While I found most of the albums to sound really quaint and really old-fashioned, She's Got Medals is a much more upbeat Baroque rock track. The song tells a story about a woman who disguises herself as a man to enlist in the army. Of course, the theme of gender bending would later manifest in his glam days with the iconic Ziggy Stardust several years later, so the song really points to his work in albums like The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars and Aladdin Sane. It's really a highlight that I found myself tapping my foot to in an otherwise forgettable album. Next we have the folk song Letters to Hermione from his 1969 album, also called David Bowie. Now, like his first album, this one was just called David Bowie, or Space Oddity, depending on when it was released. Now, what I love about this track is that there's something about it that makes it feel like a truly intimate breakup song. One thing that I personally appreciate about Bowie is that, thematically speaking, he knows to write about a wide variety. He's known to write about a wide variety of topics, like spirituality, insanity, or even the apocalypse. When Bowie invokes a more common theme like love and breakups into his music, I think he's able to do it in a way that doesn't come across as unimaginative or hollow. Accompanied by his acoustic guitar, Bowie sings to a woman who has left him for another man. The lyrics are autobiographical in nature, to some extent at least, as Bowie actually did date a woman by the name of Hermione, who left him for a dancer. So not only does the song sound sincere, but the lyrics are quite beautiful and poetic. You can hear the sadness in Bowie's weepy vocals, but not to a point where it seems melodramatic. Poor Bowie. I think things worked out for him in the long run, though. Next we have the intro track from his 1970 hard rock and heavy metal album, The Man Who Sold the World. The Width of a Circle is a two-part track which features lead guitar from the future member of the Spiders from Mars named Mick Ronson. The first 4.5 minutes of the track sound like an early 1970s heavy metal anthem, thanks to Ronson's head-banging, distorted guitar solos, while the second half of the song is more R&B inspired, but still features Ronson's guitar work. Lyrically speaking, the song invokes themes of spirituality, and I personally believe it tells the story of a man seeing his future self succumb to his desires to make love with a supernatural being. The man sees his future self as a monster. I think it could be metaphorical for Bowie's fear of maybe selling out in the music industry, but regardless of the song's meaning, it's a really interesting mashup of two different musical genres into one, and it creates quite a unique and compelling sound. At number 4, we have Andy Warhol from Bowie's iconic 1971 album Hunky Dory. Similar to Letters from Hermione, this track features Bowie on the acoustic guitar, but it incorporates attributes of art rock music. Mick Ronson accompanies Bowie also on the acoustic guitar. Now, as the title suggests, the song plays homage to pop artist Andy Warhol, who served as an inspiration to Bowie in his younger years. Now, Bowie would actually go on to perform this song to Warhol in The Factory, but Warhol reportedly disliked the track. As unfortunate of a story as it is, I personally did enjoy it. Like In Width of a Circle, Ronson's guitar work is really top-notch. The riff Ronson plays throughout the verse sounds a little Spanish-inspired, which is really what I think makes the song sound so unique. Also from Hunky Dory, we have the glam rock proto-punk song Queen Bitch. Written as a tribute to Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground, Bowie was inspired by the iconic 1967 art rock album, The Velvet Underground and Nico. The riffs are really hard-hitting and instantly memorable, and not only is the song a precursor to Bowie's glam rock Ziggy Stardust album, but it's also an example of an early punk rock song. Bowie's vocals are full of energy as he tells the story of what seems to be the narrator watching a transvestite prostitute from his hotel room. As the narrator sees the prostitute, or should I say queen, referencing a song. Now this leaves the narrator disturbed that, as the song says, it could have been him. It's really a smashing early 1970s glam anthem. Now, from Bowie's arguably most iconic album of them all, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, we have Lady Stardust. Now, I don't know if it's Bowie's soulful vocals or if it's Ronson's music hall piano performance, but there is something aesthetically pleasing about this song, which makes me picture Bowie and the Spiders from Mars performing in a smoke-filled room. Once again, Bowie has written a tribute song for one of his inspirations, but this time around it's T-Rex lead singer Mark Bolan, who had just released the hit glam rock album Electrical Warrior. I think that Bowie really shows the smooth side of his voice really well in this track, especially when he reaches the chorus of "It Was All Right." Next, we have The Prettiest Star from Aladdin Sane. Who was the prettiest star? Was it Bowie's wife Angie, or was it secretly Mark Bolan? No one knows. One thing that I've noticed about Bowie that I've come to really admire is that his ability to blend two genres of music that one would think really wouldn't work well together. While this song is primarily glam rock, it also incorporates some qualities of 1950s doo-wop music. The song begins with Ronson's playing a booming, hard-hitting guitar riff, which manifests itself throughout the track. Mike Garson's punchy piano playing and David Sanborn's tenor sax performance really amplifies the sound of the song. Ultimately speaking, the song invokes a number of different musical styles and instruments, and I think Bowie pulls it off surprisingly well. So this track comes from Bowie's cover album, Pin-Ups, released just over 6 months after Aladdin Sane. Bowie had a very specific criterion for the tracks this album encompasses. Songs from London, garage rock, pop rock, and psychedelic rock bands from the mid-1960s. While Bowie's interpretation of the McCoy song Sorrow charted worldwide, I find that his rendition of See Emily Play was much more memorable. I would suspect that anyone who listens to this cover is either going to love it or hate it. Bowie's rendition begins with a somewhat uninspired hard rock guitar riff as he sings the lyrics of Syd Barrett. However, Bowie increases the trippiness up to 11 when the chorus hits, as his vocals are weirdly overdubbed, and it sounds almost nightmarish in a way. Meanwhile, Ainsley Dunbar, sorry if I butchered that name by the way, is wailing away at the drums. The last minute and a half of this track is like the musical interpretation of a bad acid trip. A cacophonous array of string instruments creates an unearthly and chilling sound as the song seems to spin into madness. Is it better than the original Pink Floyd's version? No, but it's an excellent tribute that I would recommend hearing. We Are the Dead from Diamond Dogs, a strange song indeed. While its song is a glam rock ballad, it is certainly a very twisted one. Now what makes this song stand out to me is its vulgar and apocalyptic lyrics, which were created using a technique called cut-up lines. I know the word cut-up lines sounds like a reference to cocaine, but they really aren't. Bowie was doing a lot of coke though. Anyway, the cut-up lines technique involves writing a series of different lyrics, which are then cut into lines and drawn randomly. The lines are then pasted into a new order to establish new lyrics, while this sounds like the musical equivalent of an elementary school art project. This technique allows Bowie to create vocals like, "Oh, dress yourself, my urchin one, for I hear them on the rails," and even, "For you're dancing at where the dogs decay, defecating ecstasy." Very avant-garde. Now we're gonna get real funky with Fascination from Young Americans. Well, there are multiple songs on this album that'll make you want to boogie the night away, namely the titular track, Young Americans. I don't think any other song from this album embodies the Philadelphia sound as much as Fascination does. This is at least partially thanks to legendary R&B singer, songwriter, and record producer Luther Vandross, which originally wrote the song as funky music. The song sounds great, and I think this is partially due to the fact that, according to Bowie's record producer Tony Visconti, about 85% of the album was recorded live. As a result, the song has a really authentic sound to it. The background singers who accompany Bowie in the chorus of the song really livens up, as does Mike Garson's soaring performance on the clavinet. So now we're reaching a turning point in Bowie's career. While recording his art and funk rock album Station to Station, Bowie was living off the wholesome diet of peppers, milk, and cocaine. What's truly fascinating about this album is that the man who recorded it was in a state of psychic terror while he was doing so. Due to the dangerous amount of coke use, Bowie would later claim he could barely recall anything from the album's production. And the music is excellent, and I think that one song that doesn't get often recognized enough is the titular song from the album. While Station to Station is Bowie's longest song, clocking in at just over 10 minutes, it certainly doesn't seem like it. The first 3 minutes are completely instrumental, featuring the sound of a train, presumably approaching the station, and the droning sound of a guitar. Now, the lyrics are ambiguous, but Bowie references the English occultist Aleister Crowley. Around the 5-minute mark, the song becomes much more upbeat, as Bowie sings the refrain, "It's too late!" It's really fascinating to delve into the mind of a man who is losing his grip on reality. Now, after nearly losing his life to cocaine, Bowie packed up and moved away from Los Angeles to move back to Europe, where he would record the first entry of his experimental Berlin trilogy. The album was called Low, and Bowie truly was low. He had spent God knows how much money on coke, and was now even questioning if he still wanted to be a musician. Despite being less than 2 minutes long, Breaking Glass really stood out to me. The lyrics are minimal and somewhat disjointed, almost feeling more like a poem than a song. The song lyrically sounds quite dark, as Bowie sounds to be reflecting upon his cocaine days in LA. In regard to the music, one cannot discuss any song from Low without acknowledging the work that pioneering ambient musician Brian Eno and record producer Tony Visconti contributed to its recording. Eno's electronic influence manifests throughout the song, as his Mini Moog synthesizer accompanies Carlos Alomar's bending guitar riff. What's also notable about the song is its unusual thudding percussive beat provided by Dennis Davis. What really captivates me about Breaking Glass is that it promotes the idea that less is more. The hard-hitting electronic instrumentation, disjointed, brief lyrics draw you into quite a unique and beautiful listening experience. Driving in, next we have Always Crashing in the Same Car from the same album. The song moves you in further away from mainstream rock territory than Breaking Glass. The heavy use of synthesizers gives the song a trippy ambient sound. The music is alluring, especially guitar solos after the first and second verse. While Bowie's lyrics are more linear than most of the songs on his album, his vocals sound somber. In this track, he seems to be taking a good, hard, long look at the peak of his cocaine addiction. The lyrics are autobiographical as they recall a time Bowie crashed his car into a coke dealer's car, who he believed had ripped him off. What I found deeply moving about the track is that the theme is universal, really. While not all of us have rammed our car into a coke dealer's car, I think we all know the feeling of making the same mistake over and over again. I can recall my sophomore year of college. I heavily procrastinated on a paper until the last night, and so I had to pull an all-nighter working on it. After telling myself I wouldn't let myself procrastinate again, I sure enough found myself in the same situation the next time a paper was due. As the song would put it, I was always crashing in the same car. Now, I couldn't discuss Low without talking about Warsaw. While I'm aware that some of you may find it excessive that I chose 3 songs from the same album, this is one track I really think should be acknowledged. Kicking off with the B-side of the album, Warsaw really crosses into experimental ambient territory. Now, the music itself was composed by Brian Eno, who created the chord progression through the use of a click track. Then, with the use of synthesizers, a piano, and a Chamberlin, Eno created a dreamy and haunting instrumentation for the piece. Bowie later named it Warsaw, inspired by a 1973 trip he made to a Polish city when it was in a desolate state at the time. While the song is mostly instrumental, Bowie's vocals appear 4 minutes into the track. The lyrics are phonetical as Bowie cries out to impersonate the sound of a Polish folk choir. While discussing the song, Bowie stated, "I wanted to express the feelings of people who yearn to be free. They can smell the scent of freedom, but they can't reach it." While it's a really heavy song, it's also stunningly beautiful, and I would really go as far to say it's the most beautiful song he's ever released in his career. Although some Bowie fans may find Warsaw to be ponderous, I think it's one of the most moving songs he ever released. Next, from Heroes, we have Joe the Lion. The The song is refreshingly upbeat to hear and follow up to the melancholy low. Bowie takes a break from introspection to talk about Joe, a man who goes to bars, has a couple of drinks on the house, and becomes a fortune teller. Several of the improvised lyrics seem to allude to performance artist Chris Burden, suggesting that he himself, that Burden may have been Joe the Lion. The music implements aspects of German experimental rock music genre called krautrock. Bowie's lyrics are lively and unrestrained, and his vocals even slip out of the flow of the music during the first verse. What really makes the song a highlight from the album, though, is the lead guitar contributions from the legendary Robert Fripp. He and Carlos Alomar alternate between taking center stage on guitar, both providing loud riffs, which push the song forward. With Bowie wailing out the vocals and with Fripp and Alomar creating a guitar cacophony, the song creates a dynamic, explosive, one-of-a-kind listen. From the same album, we have Sons of the Silent Age. This song is compelling in that the verses and chorus almost sound like two different songs. It starts out with a slow sax solo as Bowie's bizarre-sounding vocals enter the mix. The lyrics have had multiple interpretations, with some believing they are a recognition of Bowie's days of psychotic withdrawal, with others believing they allude to the Nazi regime. But regardless of the true meaning of the lyrics, they are quite surreal and tell the story of a person grappling with reality. So naturally, just as you expect, the chorus of the track turns into a love song. All of a sudden, Bowie is belting out, "Baby, I will never let you go," as the music becomes joyful. As we've seen with tracks like The Width of a Circle and Station to Station, Bowie is no stranger to changing up the sound mid-song. While the song is genuinely pretty strange, the bipolar nature of the track makes it certainly worth a listen. The second to last entry on this list comes with the final album from the Berlin trilogy. While the entire album Lodger is often regarded as underrated by Bowie fans, singles like Boys Keep Singing and DJ achieved moderate success. However, the track from this album that I wanted to shed some light on was Look Back in Anger. From what I've gathered from the lyrics, the song tells the tale of an artist who is confronted with the angel of death. The artist then looks back upon his or her life as no one seems to notice. Everything about the song is quite animated. It initiates with the soaring drums of Dennis Davis, who just drives the song forward at a high-speed rate. Bowie's vocals enter the song as he boasts, "You know who I am," he said, and he cries out, "Look back in anger," during the chorus. To make the song even more intense, the second verse is replaced with a rhythm guitar solo provided by Alomar as he alternates between chords. Brian Eno incorporates different horns into the mix, which can be heard in the background. The song is really quite something else. Concluding the list, we have Teenage Wildlife, the track which kicks off the B-side of Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. The song is nearly 7 minutes of new wave, post-punk awesomeness, and featured some of the earlier tracks I identified. In this track, Bowie seems to be taking a look at his influence on youth and up-and-coming new musicians. It was now 1980, and while Bowie was only 33, a lot of the new artists trying to emulate his sound were about 10 years his junior. By the second half of the 1970s, Bowie nights became common across London, where DJs played his music and clubgoers put on their best Bowie clothes and makeup. His message seems to be taunting the new crowd, and it seems to be a message to follow your own ambitions instead of trying to recreate Bowie's path to success. And this is not me tearing at some of the Bowie-inspired new wave bands at the time, like Ultravox and Tubeway Army. But I digress. The song itself starts with Bowie singing in kind of a gloomy manner, but becomes unleashed as the song progresses. Robert Fripp's guitar work enters the mix and begins to provide some more energy. Meanwhile, Bowie begins to play around with his vocals, singing in different styles, and becoming increasingly aggressive. The instrumentation reflects the increasing intensity of the song as Carlos Alomar guitar battles with Fripp. Chuck Hammer adds another dimension to the instrumentation with his guitar synthesizer, which further intensifies the music and creates an eerie sound. Finally, in a glorious smash through the fourth wall, Bowie directly faces his audience and sings the lyrics, "Well, David, what should I do? They wait for me in the hallway." The song concludes with Bowie accompanied with background singers as he repeatedly howls away at the word wildlife. Teenage Wildlife is a powerful statement on inspiration, youth, and fame. In a way, Bowie seems to be reasserting his own dominance and challenging his successors to bring something new to the table. And with that, I will conclude my commentary on 18 David Bowie songs I think are totally underrated. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and will go and listen to some of these tracks if you haven't yet. This is my first video sitting in front of a camera and providing my own analysis, so I'm not sure how it will be received. However, if you guys like this content, then I would love to provide more of it. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw. Dislike and don't subscribe if you didn't. Whatever you see fit. Alright, peace out everyone.